And so these 5 points that I am about to mention is actually what helped me go from my toxic relationship that I have with myself and move forward into my healthy relationship that I have with myself. I'll be transparent with you guys because I want you to understand that, we all go through this. Just because someone always has something to say, but go through things for yourself. And that's the goal, to go from that toxic relationship to the healthy relationship, to where you want days by yourself. And this is a love story between you and yourself. And in order for you to give that same love to other people, you need to love yourself first. Hey my loves, hey guys, I'm so excited that you guys are here with me today. I am actually getting ready to go to one of my girlfriend's birthday brunch. And so I already did my makeup. I just have a few touch-ups. And I'm trying to decide which one of those two dresses to wear. But as I do that, I want to get straight to the point. I asked you guys from my last video which topic you wanted to hear about. As far as living a soft and feminine life, I asked you guys which topic you wanted to hear from that. And most of you guys voted about falling madly and deeply in love with yourself. And that's one of the biggest points for living a soft and feminine life. And that's loving yourself enough because you won't tolerate certain things. So let's get into it. I have 5 points for you guys to help you get to that. And these 5 points is what helped me get to my place of self-love. Before we talk about those 5 points, I want you to sit and imagine a relationship. Imagine being, if you've ever been in a healthy relationship, loving, and everything is going great. Imagine that relationship. Everything's going perfect. It's beautiful. You're spending time with each other, and there's the equal amount of interest with each other, and just everything is just like beautiful. Now imagine the toxic relationship. If you have ever been in one, imagine being in a toxic relationship and all of the time and energy that you have put into that relationship to try to get it to work, the patience, the dedication, the love you try to pour into it, even when it may have seemed one-sided, and trying to figure out the love language and connect on that level with that relationship, but it just never seems to work out. But you defend it against everybody that's telling you to cut ties with it. You defend it against everything that's coming at it. And unfortunately, that's the relationship that we have with ourselves, the toxic relationship besides the healthy relationship. And so these 5 points that I am about to mention is actually what helped me go from my toxic relationship that I have with myself and move forward into my healthy relationship that I have with myself, to help me fall madly and deeply in love with myself. And when I say that, I don't mean to be conceited and overly confident. Like, yes, be confident, but at the end of the day, you have to love yourself, because if not you, then who, right? And so you just want to be in a place where you're just madly in love. And so, of course, as I mentioned, there's 5 points. Of course, the 5th point is the most important point. So stay tuned. Point number 1. You know, when you're in a relationship, in the first few stages, you're talking to this person and you send them a little quiz and say, hey, read this quiz and figure out what your love language is. We have to do the exact same thing to ourselves. Figure out your love language. I had to figure out how I like to be loved, to receive love, and to give love. Not talking about to other people, but I'm talking about with myself. I had to learn, okay, Brooke, how do I like to be loved? What type of love can I show myself? And I can't remember all 5 of the, or is it 6? All 5 of the love languages, but I know I want them all to begin with. But for me, I know I'm very big into physical touch and affirmations. And those are the 2 big ones for me. Again, I want all of them, but the 2 big ones, physical touch and affirmations. And so once I figured out that that was my love language, the same way as if you're dating somebody and you figure out their love language and you try to give that to them, we are just as deserving of that same energy that we would want to give to somebody. Why don't you give that to yourself? So once you figure out your love languages, I need you to sit and decide, okay, how can I give myself these things? So as I mentioned, I love physical touch and I love words of affirmation. I also love quality time. And so once I sat down and realized, like, okay, I deserve these things too. I need to give this same energy to myself. So for physical touch, all of my friends know I'm very affectionate. It even aggravates some of them, but they accept me. But whenever I'm with close friends, I'm always hugging them and like cuddling up against them, leaning on them because I need that physical affection. I love when like I receive the hugs and the pats on the back. As far as like the words of affirmation, I mentioned this in my last video. And words of affirmation, you basically have to pour life into yourself. And that's what I had to do. I realized that when I'm dating other people, I love when that man comes to me and he affirms, like he verbally tells me like what he's thinking, what he's feeling. I'm a very emotional person, and so I love when he comes and pour into me verbally. And so taking him out the picture in my single time and when I'm struggling with this toxic love I have with myself, the first thing I need to do is give myself words of affirmations because that's my love language. And so in the mornings, at nights, throughout the day, or when I'm with people, I'm searching for those affirmations. I'm telling myself, Brooke, you are worthy. Brooke, you are beautiful. Brooke, you are good. You are great. You're good at what you do. Brooke, God loves you. Brooke, remember your word. Remember what God told you in this scripture. And I constantly tell myself all these things because it is very important. Where you put your mind, your feet will follow. And where you put your feet, that's where you're walking. And so that's why the words of affirmations are extremely important. And so I also said quality time. And quality time actually leads to another point that I will mention later on. But I'm saying all of this is because in order for you to be madly in love with yourself, the fun part is finding your love language. Sit with yourself, think about it, write it down if you have to, and figure out, okay, if I was having this conversation with a significant other and he asked me what are my love languages, it would be A, B, and C in that order. Now take that and pretend as if you're pursuing yourself because you are worthy of that. And so once you figure out your love languages, I need you to provide that for yourself and make time every day to pour into yourself in that way. So love languages are extremely important, not just with a significant other, but with yourself to help you find that self-love. Point number 2 is probably the hardest point. And I still work on this till this day and probably always will. So point number 2, highlight the areas you love and love on the areas that you lack in or that you're insecure about. And that is the hardest one. It's still hard for me. And so, okay, so to start this exercise, think about the things that you love about yourself. So it could be your hair, it could be your skin, it can be your voice, it can be how dedicated you are, how goal-driven you are. And always make sure it's important. When you're in love with yourself, you highlight those things. Just as if you're in a relationship with somebody, you're going to highlight those areas in their life. Do the same thing for yourself. Celebrate that. Celebrate the things that you're proud of. If you love your hair, wear it a certain type of way, play with it. If you love doing makeup, or if you love the way that, the makeup looks on you, practice that. Always make time to celebrate for yourself. All the areas that you love, they are deserving to be celebrated, right? So I commend you for that. But the hard part, of course, is loving the areas that we're insecure with. And I'm gonna have to focus on this point because this is really important. It is hard sometimes to love areas when we are insecure about certain things. And I'll be transparent with you guys because I want you to understand that, we all go through this. I have my makeup on, yes, and I have this little dress, and I'm about to put on one of my favorite dresses. Yes, I love certain things of me, but what I always struggled with was my breast size. And I used to be insecure about that. I used to be insecure about my breasts, and I used to be insecure about my voice. And for me, also, I used to be insecure about my lack of hips. But you know what? I got into a place to where I love all those things about me, and that's because I embrace them, but I also highlight them too. So so for my dresses, I actually wear dresses that complements my breasts, or not even compliment, that shows them off, and the two dresses I have back there, I'll show you guys, whichever one I decide. They're low cut, and they actually they just celebrate the tatas. And you know what? I would dress like that because I'm like, okay, either fix it or flaunt it. I'm not gonna live the rest of my life hating myself or being insecure. It's like, if not me, then who? And I'm not. How can I even pour into my daughter if I'm being, insecure? Once I do have a daughter, but it's like, I need to love myself. I can't go through life not loving it. And so when I dress, I wear dresses that's low cut and that kind of shows off what I do have. And with my voice, that's kind of why I started YouTube. I started YouTube because to be confident and to pour into myself as well, and to use my voice. I'm a very soft-spoken person. I used to actually be teased about it a little bit, but you know what? I've learned to embrace it. I've learned how to use it and to speak softly. And you know what? That's not going to stop me from doing what I need to do. And that's probably the most important part of highlighting and loving areas in your life that you're insecure about. Life is going to come at you so hard. You got to come at it just as hard, okay? And you got to be confident. You got to show it off and embrace it and be uncomfortable. Just how you want to be uncomfortable in a relationship, just how there's some things that you're not insecure about, that you're not secure about, you're going to be pouring into it, giving it so much attention, right? And if you're like me, you're an overthinker. So you're going to be giving it so much attention. That's what you need to do with yourself. You're going to figure out all type of ways to love yourself. So whatever it is, I challenge you to actually highlight those areas that you're insecure about. And it's not an overnight thing. It's taken me some time, but the journey towards it is so beautiful because you just got to figure out how to exaggerate those areas in your life, So for me, it's getting out my comfort zone and wearing the tops that show off my breasts and talking on YouTube that's showing off my voice. And so I challenge you to do that. Be uncomfortable. And I can't say this enough. Love on those areas you're insecure about. It's going to take some time, but every day work on it. If you have to write it down, if you have to write affirmations about it. I love this about myself. I love that. Even if you hate it, write it down every day. And don't expect anyone else to give you that same love, because we're responsible for that love that we give ourselves. We're responsible for accepting ourselves in the way that God has made us. So that might end up being a whole nother video on how to embrace your insecurities. But I love this saying that Tyra Banks said a long time ago: either fix it or flaunt it. And I want to say it's as simple as that, but that's all it is to it. You either fix it or you flaunt it. Don't be in between and just, man, I wish. I wish I liked this about myself. No, fix it or flaunt it. And it takes some hard work and time, but you got this. So that leads me to point number 3, which is really important. It actually pours into this. Be patient with yourself. Again, let's think about the toxic relationship. If you have ever had to fight for a toxic relationship, you will learn about your patience in a toxic relationship. And why can't we give ourselves that same patience, right? So in order for you to work on your insecurities, in order for you to figure out your love languages, you have to be patient with yourself and be a little gracious. Give yourself some grace. The same way that God loves us and He's patient, we're just as deserving of that love. The same patience you give to any relationship, we're just as deserving. So you may be thinking, man, my insecurities are so big, it's like I can't conquer them. Truth is, it's longer than an overnight battle. It's going to take some time, but have patience with yourself, and that's okay. Love yourself enough to have patience, to understand that this is all a journey. And part of living a soft and feminine life is having that patience. And part of loving yourself is having that patience. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace that you've went this long while not loving yourself or putting up with certain things that you shouldn't have. Give yourself grace. You know what? It's okay. All of that's in the past. Tomorrow is not written yet. And there's still time to love yourself. There's still time to move forward. So patience is a very big one. And you just love yourself enough to be patient and kind and soft with yourself. Give yourself grace. You deserve it, just how all the other relationships deserve it. You deserve it yourself. So remember that. A part of loving yourself is being patient and kind to yourself. So now that we have the patience kind of locked down, the insecurities locked down in our love languages, now we have to talk about self-trust. And that's a big one, because as you're doing the points that I mentioned, the top 3 points that I mentioned, if you start working on these every day, you're going to start develop a sense of self-trust with yourself. Again, thinking about the relationship, you want trust in that relationship with that person. So we need that same trust in order to fall madly in love with ourselves. You want to trust yourself. So you want to trust yourself that you can get through this journey. And I said this in one of my posts back then. Yes, you may have had some hard times. You may have even thought about giving up. And you're here today. And I just want to take some time out and say I am proud of you that you made it this far and that you're still here. And guess what? You have 100% survival rate. Even if you thought about giving up in the past and you tried multiple times, you've had those hard nights, those hard seasons, you're standing right here today watching this video, living, breathing. You have 100% survival ratio. And I'm proud of you because that's big. You're here and you still have so much to do. And just knowing that you're still here, that you survived everything that's been thrown at you and you're still breathing today, trust yourself because you made it this far. So you deserve that trust. So as you start trusting yourself, you're going to start walking a little different, talking a little differently, and you won't put up with certain things in your life. You're going to start setting boundaries because you don't want nobody messing with your energy and all this hard work that you're putting with yourself. You're not going to put up for some of the other things. Just like a relationship, you become protective over it. You're not going to let some of these outside factors, poison that relationship. The same thing with ourselves. You need to trust yourself that you can create clear boundaries, that you can love your insecurities and work on that journey, and that you realize that you've made it this far and that there's nothing wrong with you. That's just all a part of your past and your journey, but you survived, and you trust yourself that you will survive the future storms ahead of you, and you trust yourself that you will make time to shower yourself with the love languages that you want. And trust is a big thing because how can you love yourself? How can you move forward if you don't trust yourself? And once you have that power of trust, you're unstoppable. And I had to go through that. I still struggle with it, but learning how to be disciplined with God and disciplined on my path and journey. And although I fall short, that ties back into patience with yourself. Although I fall short, I still trust myself because I've been setting up boundaries and cutting some people off, cutting certain things and activities off in order for me to love myself completely. Because once I realized, hey, this is making me insecure, this is making me, doubt myself, this is pulling me away from my purpose. And once I started doing the action of cutting those things off, creating those boundaries, I start trusting myself more, and therefore I start trusting God, but I start trusting myself more. And that's simple, but it's very big. It ties into everything I mentioned before. My favorite point, and this point may seem basic, the last point always seems basic, but it's so important. But point number 5, I will mention after I get dressed. Y'all know how I always do this, but I'm gonna get dressed and then I'll mention point number 5 with you guys, okay? I love you.
do. So why do we do this dance? Are we moving too slow? Cause you need reassurance.
Alexa,
Don't
play Sabrina
conflate
Claudio.
issues. Why you always jump to? Do I really want you when you know that I do? You so scared of real love, cause you've been abandoned with any mistake. They quick to run, and so you run, jump the gun, but know that you got it. Even at your lowest, you got it. You know that you got it. Baby, take the moment.
What happened to my spray? Okay. So I actually decided to go with this dress, the roses, the colors. I think it's more brunch attire, and I was just feeling more colorful today. So, but yes. So going back to one of the points that I mentioned, as far as celebrating your insecurities, I used to be insecure about my breast size and my hips. And so I love this dress because it forces me to shed light on this area. It forces me to embrace it and also just celebrate just my body frame. So, yes. Ooh. So it forces me to celebrate all of this. And I'm sorry, my mom watches my shows, my videos. She does not like this dress that much, but I love you, Mom. I just need to celebrate the tatas. But yes, so I'm telling you, like, no matter if it's something that you're wearing or something that you have to do to get out your comfort zone, make sure that you work on loving the things that you're insecure about. So this leads to point number 5, which is the most fun probably and the most important point. And that is to go on self dates. It's simple as that. It might sound frightening to some people, especially introverts, and it sounds so basic, but that is the number one thing I had to do in order to fall madly in love with myself. And that was to take time out and to do all of those things that I mentioned before, and to date myself and to pursue myself. And so whether that's going out to go eat, by myself at a restaurant, or going to the movies by myself, or going to the park, the ballets, or different events that I like to do, or trying something that I've always wanted to try, just doing things by myself and spending time with myself. Because let's be real, you spend time with the things that you love. And just like the relationship, toxic or healthy, you spend time with that because you love it. And the same with yourself. I know a lot of us, sometimes we don't like being by ourselves, sitting with ourselves and just existing. But that is the most important thing. In order for you to make time for everything I just listed, you have to spend time with yourself, alone, and by yourself. And I don't care who's looking, because most of the time nobody is, but who's looking or what you may think other people are thinking, none of that matters, because someone always has something to say. But go do things for yourself. Dress for yourself, smell good for yourself, show up for yourself, celebrate yourself, highlight certain areas in your life, like do things for you. And that's the number one thing I had to do. And part of that, it builds up confidence, it builds up the trust. You're going to figure out your love languages. You're going to figure out, how do you like to spend time with yourself? Do you like to go shopping? Which, that's another one. Giving gifts or something like that for the love languages, that's another one. Do you like to go shopping for yourself? Do you like to pour into yourself and go to church or sermons or lectures, TED Talks, whatever, words of affirmation? The physical touch. I mean, I might be reaching, but working out, fitness, taking time to yourself, that can be a date too. I like working out. but date yourself and work on everything I mentioned above. This is the most important thing. You have to love yourself so much that you just, honestly, you get to a place where you're like, okay, I poured into all of these people, I love them, but I want some time to myself. And that's the goal, to go from that toxic relationship to the healthy relationship, to where you want days by yourself, you want self dates, you want to do the things that you love and do the things that make you happy or get out your comfort zone. You want to date yourself, you want to pursue yourself, you want to figure out what your love language is, and how do you like to be poured into. And that is so much fun. It can definitely bring you into some uncomfortable situations, but that's the whole point. You want to get out there and show yourself, that you deserve all of these things. And now, mind you, all of this is extremely important. Having self-love for yourself, falling madly and deeply in love with yourself. And I want to circle back to remind you that this is not about being conceited, but this is more about being soft and feminine. And in order for you to be able to pour into other people, to nurture them and love them, you can't do that unless you are madly in love with yourself. And I mentioned that in my video from last week. That's one of the key points. Fall madly in love with yourself. Fall deeply, madly in love with yourself. Fall passionately, deeply, madly in love with yourself. That's what we want. And this is a love story between you and yourself. And in order for you to give that same love to other people, you need to love on yourself first. And so let's celebrate that. Let's fall in love with ourselves. And let's just remember that before we give that to others, we have to give it to ourselves. And you are deserving of that. You are worthy of that. So I want to encourage you to work on the points that I mentioned above. These are what I have done to help me fall madly in love with myself. And so after that, everything else starts falling into place. And so I hope that this video has helped you. I am, as always, running close on time. The brunch starts at 2. I got some time. But until then, I love you guys and stay blessed and healthy. Let's see the outfit again. What was it? What did I talk about last week? Oh. Oh, Lord. If I can get this in. Lord have mercy. Nothing's working today. Goodness. Get in the hole.